Hello again, vinyl community. Thank you for a great response to my first video, especially when John Coltrane 68, Chris stumbled across it and made a wonderfully kind video recommending people to my channel. So a swath of vinyl nerds came and checked it out, and it's positive response, and I really appreciate that. It's cool that I can be, as Chris put it, one of you. I really dig that. So the object of today's video that I'd like to talk about is music from where I'm from, the Pacific Northwest, and specifically underground music. I think we have a really interesting contemporary scene here, and really have for a good while. I'm not going to talk about Nirvana and grunge music or anything like that, mostly because I don't find it that interesting. I think there's much more interesting things going on here. So what's in the background is a group I think is defunct, but it's, as you can hear, a jazz free improvisation sort of big band called Monktail Creative Music Concern. This is non grata. This is excellent, and a lot of the musicians in this group you will see on some of the records I'm going to show. So to start with, I did want to show a band that people probably do know from the Pacific Northwest, just to give a sort of frame of reference. The Melvins. This is their first record, Gluey, Porch Treatments. It's a reissue, I'm sure. But the Melvins, for me, and I'm sure for a lot of people, especially people who probably started out listening to metal or heavier end of rock music, they were a gateway to weird shit for me. So definitely an important part of my musical consumption development. Great stuff, heavy, thuddy punk rock. I think they could be lumped into grunge at this point in their career, only to immediately sort of reject that and go on to bigger and better things. But there wouldn't be Nirvana without this. And likewise, I think a lot of the bands and music that I'll be talking about here wouldn't exist without this group here, Sun City Girls, who I have way too many of their records, so that's going to be a different video. But to start off with some more contemporary underground Pacific Northwest music, we have this group, Bad Luck. They are a sort of jazz duo. The saxophonist is a guy by the name of Neil Welch, and he plays, I guess, prepared saxophone, or really he runs it through various electronic effects and produces a wide array of interesting sounds. There's this neat sticker in here that I haven't stuck on anything. Not too much to see here, but really cool music. Oh, and the drummer, Chris Acasiano, is absolutely fantastic. Kind of the highlight of the group for me personally, but yeah, really good stuff. This group is really interesting. Climax Golden Twins. Sort of noise rock and improvisation and noise and sound collage weirdness, featuring Jeffrey Taylor and Robert Millis, both guitar players, and another guy whose name I don't remember, but I know that he's a professor at UW currently in the ethnomusicology department. And Robert Millis, I know, does work with Sublime Frequencies, a label based out of Seattle that does sort of following in the footsteps of labels like None Such Explorer Series, Akora, etc., doing world music. Their take on it was quite interesting. It's a lot of like radio collages and things like that wouldn't pop up normally on those kinds of labels, and compilations of like 70s psych from various places in Southeast Asia. So that one was Eerie Fragrance. This one I like a lot more. It's called 5 Cents a Piece. This one's more, I guess, structured um, more, not really song based, but it has like musical structure and a lot of cool guitar playing. And Dave Abramson, who's a fantastic drummer from Seattle, plays this one. You got the Diabolic Mind Control. This is great stuff on the Abduction label, also based out of Seattle. Abduction and Sublime Frequencies, both being run by Alan Bishop of Sun City Girls there. So speaking of Dave Abramson, we have this group, Diminished Men, which he plays drums for. This album is called Capnomancy, and it's excellent. Diminished Men play rock music with elements of, I'd say, surf. It's very comparable to like Ennio Morricone soundtracks, with the atmosphere and interesting guitar effects. If you know Sun City Girls, they're comparable, I'd say, to there, but focusing on like the sort of slightly ethnic psych and surf elements of the band. Yeah, Diminished Men are fantastic. I've seen them a couple times live, and definitely among the best live groups I've ever seen. I also have 6 O'Clock Baby, and I guess I was listening to it, so it's no longer piled here. There we go. Vision and Crying. This is also excellent. I was listening to it just yesterday. Their latest release, apparently they have a new one coming soon. Very excited about that. And they're all on Abduction Records again. This one in particular I think is interesting because they somehow acquire and use some sort of gamelan instruments or something that sounds a lot like it at the very least. And definitely more of an emphasis on these sort of Far East sort of psych sounds. I wouldn't really compare it to that as much musically, but like the kinds of sounds that crop up on those kinds of psych records in particular are present here, whether it's scales or the tone they're using. I don't know too much about that theoretically, but I can hear it. I forgot to mention the other members of the band. Steve Schmidt on guitar. He has one other group called Ruminator. They do have a CD, but I haven't been able to buy it. I actually tried to buy it and never got it. But it's really good. I'll post links to all the band camps of the groups I'm talking about here as applicable. But yeah, I do recommend his project Ruminator. And Simon Henneman, who plays bass in Diminished Men, has several other groups that he's in as well. He plays bass there. He plays guitar in most of the other groups, including this one, Cantrip. They now go by Authentic Luxury, which is the title of this album. He plays with Chris Cassiano from Bad Luck and a fellow named Mike Murphy on bass on this record. This was one of my absolute favorite records of last year. Very much in the same vein as Diminished Men, more kind of wanky, effects-laden guitar stuff, but tastefully so. Tasteful shredding, sort of almost comparable to someone like Adrian Belew in a way. I know when I was listening to this with my bandmates in the car, a couple of them thought it reminded them of shit like Guns N' Roses and whatnot, and I guess I can hear that, but I think the music is much more intelligent than that, and it's instrumental. Everything I've shown so far is instrumental. What else was I going to say? Oh, we might be playing a show with these guys once all this is over. That's kind of in the works, but I'm excited about that. Musician here I've seen perform several times. He's based in Olympia rather than Seattle. He goes by the name of Arrington de Dionyso. This is his album Abraxasaxaphonic Smooth Jazz Vagina. He does all of this visual art too, which I really admire. It's sort of almost primitivist in style, but also drawing from East Asian art. And music on this one is more of an experimental sound collage sort of deal, and I really like it. But he also plays in groups. This one, Malaikat and Singa, which I really like. I had the pleasure of seeing them, and it was really excellent, skronky, comparable to Beef Heart sort of rock. I mean, not as like complex as Beef Heart, but skronky and has that same sort of rhythm to it as Beef Heart. Really good shit. And there's this other group which I haven't delved as much into, honestly. I do have like this record by Old Time Religion, Catharsis in Crisis. And I forgot to mention this one, Suara Naga, sorry, is the title. All the lyrics are in Indonesian, on a similar tangent to Sublime Frequencies and those kinds of cats. This guy has a very deep interest in Indonesian music, sort of a punk rock approach to ethnomusicology, and it ends up in his music, and it makes it very interesting. A couple other discs here. Okay, here they are. So these are two that he did, or actually this one he did in that style. It's him improvising on saxophone with gamelan musicians, really far out stuff. And this one is, your sort of traditional free jazz duo skronk fest, in the vein of like Interstellar Space or something like that with a drummer. It's called This Saxophone Kills Fascists. So ethnomusicology and leftist politics are kind of what you're going to get with this guy. I really like it, and the visual art, of course, is super cool. And all of his stuff is on Bandcamp, available to listen to. This one, Fungal Abyss, this is some of the coolest psychedelic rock I've heard come out recently. I'm not really a fan of a lot of the stuff that gets hyped by people my age, like King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. It's boring. It's boring, and I'd rather listen to the stuff that inspired it, like Can and Gong. But this is the real deal. This is heavy. This is far out. These guys' shtick apparently is basically taking mushrooms and playing live. I don't know if that's legitimately what they do, but that's what they claim to do. And I believe it from seeing them twice. It's definitely far out, entranced, sort of heavy psychedelic rock with, they're doing the King Gizzard thing and having like 3 or 4 guitar players that they probably don't need to have. Crucial members on this are Jim Davis, you got Brad Moen on vocals, and those guys both play in a group called Master Musicians of Bukake, which I'll be showing momentarily. Sequoia Flame, who commented on my first video, I know you like Acid Mother's Temple. This is up your alley. This is good stuff. One of my absolute favorite live groups to see. I've seen them maybe 4 or 5 times now, based out of Seattle, called Hound Dog Taylor's Hand. You got Jeffrey Taylor, who plays in Climax Golden Twins on guitar, as well as the rhythm section from Monktail Creative Music Concern. 2 guys by the name of John Saman, who plays bass, and Mark Ostrowski on the drums. And occasionally they play with a trumpet player named Greg Kelly, who has all kinds of fascinating extended techniques and things that he does with his trumpet. I've I had the pleasure of seeing him perform a couple times with the band and also in other groups. I don't think I've seen him play solo, but I've definitely seen him do his thing with like bizarre extended techniques and flatulent sounds and whatnot. But when he plays with this group, he plays on their second record, or their second self-titled record, which came out last year. It's very reminiscent of like Miles' fusion era funk kind of stuff, but with a band that sounds much more in the vein of like James Blood Ulmer or Sonny Sharrock, on that almost like heavy psych rock kind of end of the spectrum, filled with free improvisation. As far as I can tell, when they play live, that's what they do. They just improvise, and that's what makes every show of theirs surprising and energetic and just so much fun. Such a great live band. Yeah, I definitely recommend checking them out. They're on Bandcamp as well. One of the more well-known musicians from Seattle, maybe people know him. I think he won an Oscar, or was part of a crew that won an Oscar, writing the soundtrack or playing on the soundtrack to Joker, I believe. I might be talking out of my ass, but I think he did perform on the soundtrack of some acclaimed film that I didn't see. I'm talking about Ivan Kang, viola player, primarily viola and violin, and composer, and again, sort of rogue ethnomusicologist who dabbles in playing and writing music with and for various ethnic music instruments. This disc is fantastic. Has Dave Abramson on drums again, Jessica Kenny, Randall Dunn, and Shazad Ismaili are the other crucial members that I know in this lineup. He's playing Zorn compositions. It's part of the Book of Angels series. It has a very Middle Eastern sort of tone to it. A bit of that klezmer rock, kind of John Zorn sound that you know and have probably heard on his other stuff if you've checked it out. I forget where I was going with this. It sounds a lot like Ennio Morricone soundtrack stuff at times. It's fantastic. I love this disc. And the other records I have by him, this one is called Reverse Tree. It's a collaboration with Jessica Kenny, the vocalist who I believe he is married to. And you got Stephen O'Malley on here from Sun. Sun is based in Seattle, but people know them. I'm not going to talk about them here. Oren Mbarchi, and Hildur Gudmundsdóttir, who I think was also part of that Oscar-winning soundtrack that I don't know what it is. And then on the B side, they are collaborating with Gamelan Pacifica, which is a gamelan group actually based out of the University of Washington. I've had the pleasure of seeing that, and it was incredible. I have loved gamelan music for years, and to experience it in person was just something else. Absolutely magnificent. The other record I have, this is part of the Unrock Saraswati series. I think I touched on in my last video. No, I just touched on the label, not the series. Anyway, it's an excellent series. This is one of the more interesting ones in that series to me. It's got Ivan Kang on one side, playing viola using only finger technique with it, not bowing it. And he's playing on a couple of tracks with a Ghanaian percussionist and a cellist as well. And then on the B side, you have Tashi Dorji, who is one of the finest kind of skronky guitarists, or he kind of straddles that line of like skronky electric guitar and doing his own take on the American primitive kind of approach to it. Really excellent guitar player. I've gotten to see him live. I've never seen Ivan Kang I'd really like to someday. And then the last one I have by him is Plain Light on Abduction. Interesting lineup again here. You've got various Korean instruments. Guy again and Jiamongo. I'm not sure of the pronunciations. I was more versed on it at one point because I did a presentation on Korean shamanic music, which uses those instruments. And then we got tempura. What else? Various chamber instruments, jangu, which is Korean percussion instruments. Yeah, this is really cool. And Randall Dunn again on a synthesizer. Forgot to mention him. He's a synthesizer player and producer from Seattle. And two more groups I'll talk about in this video. Master musicians of Bukake. This group is fantastic. They're defunct now, as far as I know. Who the hell is on this again? Let's see, we got primarily Randall Dunn, synthesizer I was just talking about, Brad Moen, who did vocals on that Fungal Abyss record, Don McGreevy, James Davis, Milky, and John Schuler, playing a pretty big list of instruments there. I don't know if you can read that. And then various guests, including Alan Bishop and Charles Gaucher of Sun City Girls, Ivan Kang, who I was just talking about. And this one is called The Visible Sign of the Invisible Order. This is probably their farthest out record, honestly, their first one. It's more all over the place, more experimental, and they sort of delve into creating various, Southeast Asian atmospheres and this weird psychedelic shit. Fantastic stuff, and you'll see on some of these other records, they have costumes and whatnot that they wear live. This one is Totem 1, probably my favorite of theirs. It's more overtly of a psychedelic rock sort of record. The first side especially, it's divided into 4 parts, so it's one of those deals where it's like the whole side just sort of blends into itself and it should really be heard as one thing, going everywhere from like playing gamelan instruments again, to synthesizer atmospheres, and then you've got like this fantastic psychedelic rock song in People of the Drifting Houses with Alan Bishop on vocals. This is highly recommended, and that's part of a series. Totem 2. This was the first one I heard by them. I found it at a library back when it came out. I think I was drawn in by the artwork, of course, and it's actually also how I found out about Sun City Girls, or where I first became aware of those people, because the series is dedicated to all 3 members of the band. I think it would have been shortly after Charles Gaucher passed that they started doing these. And this is Totem 3. This one, they go far out with the synthesizers, and it's great. The Totem 2, I probably should have said more about it. Definitely has more of the world music sort of feel. Very drone rock sort of opening track, and then it goes everywhere from like Turkish and Persian sort of classical music, more synthesizers and psychedelic stuff. It's great. If you like psychedelic music, you should be listening to Master Musicians of the Bukake. They're some of the finest. This is Far West. their last album. They had a companion piece to this, I think meant to be played at the same time. I do not have it. Wish I did, but this is probably their, I don't want to say accessible, but or commercial. Nah, I don't know the right word, but it's probably the easiest one to listen to. Far West. Good stuff. And last up here, I had a stack of CDs I intended to talk about too, but I didn't realize this was going to be almost a half-hour video, so I'll do that some other time with the Sun City Girls and whatnot. The last record I have to show is by Spider Trio. I think I have seen Alex over at 247 show this and talk about this once, and it is indeed some fantastic, skronky, again, blurring the lines between noise, rock, kind of, and jazz. You got Dave Abramson on drums, Jeffrey Taylor on guitar, and Wally Shoop on sax. And, it's just as good as any far out, skronky, intense, ESP free jazz sort of record. I really recommend this one. Spider Trio, Rendezvous. More to talk about later, but I'll keep it at sort of an accessible viewing length for now and just come back and do more videos some other time. So thank you for watching. Hit that like and subscribe button and tune in for more of this bullshit and stay healthy. Bye. Take care, everyone.